All right, it's late, bedtime. Human beings, human beings, human beings will always, you can set your watch by it, okay? It's so predictable, so obvious, so in everyone's face, right? Human beings will always, in the end, will always turn on you. Always. You can, like I said, you can set your watch by it. They can't help it. Okay? Simply because they don't do any kind of work whatsoever within themselves, with themselves, being aware of themselves. Very few do, right? Very few do. And me, I fall short on it too. So I always like to keep myself accountable for my own nonsense as well. Okay? And so they will always turn on you. It doesn't even matter. They'll forget what they said 2 days earlier. They'll always go back on what they say. They won't even know they're doing it, of course. That's the kicker as well, because once you start being aware of the way that you were before, or even tiny bits, right, you kind of know that other people in the same predicament. They won't even remember, they won't even know. But they will always turn on you. Always. You can always guarantee this. It's like a certainty. What's that old saying? They always say this comedy kind of saying where like there's only two things certain in life: death and taxes, right? Death and taxes. Just to segue a tiny bit. I gotta start feeding the cat more, dude. Right? You always know when a cat is really hungry. I feed him every day pretty much, right? But every now and then if I'm working, I'll forget or something like that, right? You always know when a cat is really hungry, right? Because he's outside the window breakdancing, right? He's outside breakdancing, and when he starts doing the moonwalk, you know he's hungry, bro, right? Right? So like, hey, shit, man, open the can and get some food into this guy, right? But like I said, you can always set your watch by it, right? They will always turn on you, and it's not a negative thing. Once you know that, you know it before it even happens. It's always so like just say even like some of the things I was saying about before not being controlled by human beings doesn't mean that you don't feel and you don't have kind of like disappointments and kind of all the rest of it. But what you do is you work through it and you walk away. That's what you do, right? That's the only thing you can do, because freedom means that you let people just do what they want as long as they're not physically hurting you and stuff like that. But it's nothing to do with me what people do, right? But you can always rely on that. Not just death and taxes, right? Not just death and taxes. You can add a third one to that. Human beings will always turn on you. Always. That's why it's always good to have a good practice to try and contact no self. All right? Because then you're not reliant on human beings. And even if you are, it's like a tug of war, right? It's like, kind of lean this way a tiny bit, and then like, no, I'd rather go towards the creator, and kind of like, because you can't trust human beings. They don't even know how treacherous they are. They don't even know how stupid they are. They're like bird brains, dude. They'll say one thing and then 10 minutes later they'll contradict it with something else, and they won't even know it. That's the kicker. They won't even know it, right? So that's the talk. So kind of like, so it's like, it's predictable, expected. They're always going to turn on you. Okay. And once you know that, then there's a good bit of freedom in that, because that's what it's really about. It's about trying to find some sort of freedom outside of human behavior, because there is no freedom in that area. None. I yield.